Welcome to an all-new episode of Get Lit with Lianna, the podcast. Join me as I sit down with a new guest author in each episode to discuss their books, careers, and everything in between. Today's episode is going to be so much fun because I get to sit down with USA Today bestselling author Andie J, whose new book, Thank You Next, is out everywhere right now. I cannot wait to sit down and chat with Andie because not only is she an incredible romance writer, she's written so many books and she's a bestseller for a reason, but she also coined the term Stern Brunch Daddy, which if you've been following me for a while, you know I love my romance tropes. You know I love my different types of main characters, and Stern Brunch Daddy is hands down one of my favorite and just has the best name ever. So I'm so excited to have Andie on the podcast to not only pick her brain about this term and how she came up with it, but also about her new book and everything else she's been working on. And this podcast episode is also very special because we're welcoming a sponsor. Today's sponsor is Probably Smut, my all-time favorite book apparel shop. If you have not yet checked them out, you absolutely must. They make the comfiest shirts, sweatshirts, stickers, and they have the best sayings ever. If you're a romance reader like me or a smut lover, this is the store you need to shop from. And I have a very special 10% off code for all of you listeners. You can use my code GETLIT10, that's GETLIT 10 at checkout for 10% off, which is so nice because who doesn't love money off? So check them out on Instagram at probablysmut and www.probablysmut.com. I know this episode is going to be so much fun and I can't wait to get into this conversation with Andie. So without further ado, here we go. My conversation with author Andie J starts right now. Welcome, Andie, to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. This is very exciting for me because I just recently finished Thank You Next, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. So thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with me and do this little chat.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you about Thank You Next and, answer any questions you have.
Yeah, this is going to be so much fun. So before we get into it, I have to be totally honest and let you know that this is my first experience reading a book of yours. This is my first Andie book. So I kind of went into it totally blind, not knowing what to expect. So tell me, before we get into the actual book, how did you become a writer? What were you doing before you were an author? Tell me a little bit of the backstory.
So I have always been a huge romance reader. I think I found my first bag of Harlequin romances in my grandmother's closet when I was about 10 years old. And I was hooked on sort of category romances. And I read those all throughout school as a way to relieve stress. I was just always a big reader. And I loved romance in particular because it was so comforting to know that everything was going to end happily.
Yeah.
So then I had moved to DC and I was I work as an attorney. So that's sort of a pretty dry sort of job for the most part. And so I was looking for interesting and exciting things to do. And so I ended up taking a writing class called The Extreme Novelist at this writer center in Bethesda. And I wrote my first published book during that class. It's called Stroke of Midnight, and it was published in 2017 with a digital first press.
Okay.
And I just kind of kept rolling from there. I joined local writers groups, queried agents.
Yeah.
And I actually think I had I got my first contract before I signed with my first agent.
Okay.
And then in 2018, I was really thinking I wanted to make the jump to trade publication. So jump to books that would be in bookstores. And so I had changed agents. And so with the idea that I would write a romcom. And so I wrote Not the Girl You Marry, which is sort of a role swapped, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yeah.
And then wrote two books in that, they're standalones, but
in the same story world.
In the same story world. And I mean, I think all my books are sort of set in the same story world. So if Alex and Will went to Chicago, they'd probably end up meeting Jack and Hannah somehow, I think. But they're all very much standalone. And Thank You Next is a new city. It's a new cast of characters. And yeah, so that's
so crazy.
How it came to be. And I still work as an attorney.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're still doing the attorney thing while writing. That cannot be easy to juggle both of those things, is it?
It's not, but it's also fine because I'm not married and I don't have children. I just have a needy dog. So it's, and he's happily napping for most of the time while I'm writing and working as a lawyer. And actually the pandemic and working from home made it even a little bit easier because I wasn't commuting.
Right.
Although in the past I have been, writing on my phone.
Oh my God. I have so many questions. Yeah. Okay. I have so many questions about like your writing process and how, because this book was a pandemic book, right? You were writing this majority.
I wrote this completely in 2021. So yeah, it's fully a pandemic book.
Okay. I have so many questions about that. But before we get into the writing process of this exact book, what was it like to make that jump from like digital to trade? Like, how was it to get a different, like I imagine like, you had a different agent, right? You just mentioned that. Yeah. So what was that whole process like? And how, like, was it stressful? Was it fun? Like, tell me about it.
Okay. So my current agent and I had been friends for a long time and I kind of always wanted to work with her. And so when it came time to part ways with my previous agent, I was like, hey, Courtney, I really want to work with you. And it was really sort of a collaborative process. Like, let's work on an idea together that we think is going to sell in the market right now.
Okay.
And it was like, I sort of like managed my way into writing like what, was at that point, like the book of my heart.
Okay.
So it was just a really sort of like lucky confluence of things. And so, and it didn't really take that long to sell the book, which was
amazing.
Yeah. Which was wild. I mean, so my digitally published books had gotten some really good sort of review coverage. And I think that helped. And I, had a voice in sort of like the romance community.
Right.
And I was like, just really active in like going to local events and like meeting authors that I really vibed with. Okay. And, kind of like building a little bit of a brain trust, but I mean, none of it would have happened had I not like, really, wanted to like make that jump. Like I could have, like there were other directions I could have gone. Like I could have gone like indie or just kept writing with the digital press or, any number of things.
Right.
But yeah, so it was like the next logical step in my writing career, I think.
Crazy. And then how was it going on Sveb? Like, what was that like?
It's never a whole lot of fun because you're like, it's always like nerve wracking. It's always like, it's like dating. Like, does he like me? Does he not like me? Like,
the fear of rejection for sure.
The fear of rejection for sure. And so it was just like, I just had a really good feeling about the book and we submitted it on proposal. So it was like the first 3 chapters.
Okay.
And, I was like, I really feel like I just like put my entire voice into it. And I think like one thing people always say about my books is they're really voicey. And so I think it was just like, I went just completely voice forward with that proposal. Amazing. So yeah.
And they just saw you for who you were and they totally got the full picture and it's amazing.
Yes. My editor totally got and I mean, I wanted to really write about, my life experience dating while biracial in the city of Chicago in my 20s. And so she got that experience so much. And so did my agent. And so did like the couple of other editors who wanted to bid on the project. So I felt I was really lucky. And I think you can't really understate the value of luck when you're in the publishing business. Like, right project, right time, right editor.
I've been hearing, guys, I've been doing quite a few of these lately, and I've been hearing a lot of that from a bunch of different authors that are saying kind of the exact same thing. Not to be like, obviously I'm not talented or I didn't have something, but like so many people are saying that it's all about the timing and the luck. And there's so many other factors that you just can't prepare for that come into it. So it's so interesting that you say that too, because I'm hearing it now from all sides and all different types of authors that have completely different backgrounds. So it's and I haven't had anybody, I don't think yet on my show that has made the jump from digital to traditional public. You have. So it's very cool to hear too.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you just never feel like, I think as a writer, you never feel like you're really there. Like there's always like another thing you're wanting to grab. Like,
okay.
When you're writing a book, you just want to finish the book. When you finish the book, you just want to polish it well enough so that an agent will take an interest and want to sell it. And then once that happens, you just want to sell the book to a publishing house.
Right.
And
it's
then
hard to like live in the moment. Like it's always like you're worried about the next step in the process.
It's not even worried. It's like, and it's a group of romance is a group of very high achieving people. Like lawyers, doctors in any field. Yeah. They're just engineers, like scientists, like Christina, like Lauren Billings. So it's just so it's, you always want to be making like the best books possible. And you also want to see them reaching the most readers possible.
Right.
And so much of that is sort of out of your hands. And like, it's sort of like this alchemy of like writing a good book plus having like a team that really believes in it and like pushes it to the right people. So it's just, it's a lot and it's always going to be anxiety producing. But like the thing that I always try to go back to is like, I really love writing and reading romance. Like that's like, if someone was like, you can't read anything else for the rest of your life, I would be absolutely fine with that.
That's me to a T. I feel the exact same way. Like I'm more than 1,000% content to only read romance for the rest of time. Like it's fine. I could do without everything else. I'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I love other like genres. Like I just finished reading like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Yeah.
Like,
so good.
Love it. But like in other genres, I tend to like listen to audiobooks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I've like so not been in audio, and I really think I would love audiobooks for whatever reason. I've never like, I don't think I've ever tried really. There's one book that I've listened to on audio multiple times because I love it so much.
Which one is it?
It's called The Idea of You by Robin Lee. Have you heard of this book?
I have heard of this book. I haven't read it because I heard it doesn't have a happily ever after.
Exactly. It's not a romance. It's a love story.
Yeah. And I love Robin.
Yeah.
And it's on my list, but I was like, I need to be in a place where I can read a book that does not have an HEA.
Yeah. Are you a Harry Styles fan?
I like Harry. He's a little young for me. But
he wouldn't say the flip. Like he would think you're probably like you would probably be too young for him.
I think I'm actually about the right age.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Yeah. I thank you, retinol. But like, yeah, I actually think I'm about the right age for Harry.
Yeah.
I am anyone who has followed me online for any period of time knows that I am a diehard Chris Evans fan.
Yes, I know that even about you. And I'm a new Andie fan, and I even know that about you.
My brand is strong. And recently I've discovered the world of Formula One.
Okay. From the Netflix series?
Yes, from the Netflix series.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the Real Housewives of hot guys in fast cars.
There's nothing better. I think I have to watch. Like everyone's talking about it, and I'm a big like pop culture person, and the fact that I'm now in the dark on this big aspect of like entertainment that people are just dying over, like it doesn't feel right. Like I need to be well versed in this.
As an aside, I need you to like watch it and then email me your thoughts on Lewis Hamilton, who is my Formula One boyfriend.
I'm dead. He's so hot. I know him because he was friends with Justin Bieber for like one blip moment of time. And Justin Bieber always posts about him. I follow him on Instagram. He's so hot.
Yes. And he is the best driver in the world.
I'm dying. So you're a big F1 fan now.
I'm a huge F1 fan. I was supposed to go to the Grand Prix in Austin last year and canceled because of COVID reasons.
Hey, come visit me. The Grand Prix is in Montreal next weekend here. Come visit. Come, we'll go find all the F1 drivers. It'll be the best time ever.
I mean, don't threaten me with a good time.
I know.
I might show up for sure. Anyway.
I love that. Anyway, so Robin's book, The Idea of You, is the only book I've ever read on audio. So, I mean, listened to on audio rather. So I mean, I'm not like opposed to trying other books, but I just like reading because I feel like when I listen, I can't picture things as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I was converted to audiobooks by another Taylor Jenkins Reid book,
Which one?
Daisy Jones and the Six.
That one's amazing apparently on audio because it's all the voices, right?
It is all the voices.
Yeah.
It is bonkers amazing. And so now I only like her books. I listen to them exclusively in audio because they're so perfect for that medium.
Okay.
I also listened to One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston in audio.
Yes. Yeah,
and that was
good.
an awesome book in audio. But I do it because I have the needy French bulldog who needs the walkies.
So you have the time.
Yeah. And if I'm cooking or like cleaning or whatever, and I run out of like murder podcasts, that's,
I love murder podcasts too. That's your other go-to.
Murders, cults. Yeah.
Same. Me too. Exactly same. But are you somebody that like, if you're reading another type of book, like if you're not reading a romance book, but let's say you're reading like a thriller, like it needs to be like a heavy romance line in the thriller? Cause like, that's my bag. Like if it's a thriller that doesn't have so much of like a romance aspect, love story to it, like I'm just not, I need some form of a love story, even if it's not a happy ever after. I just need some sort of like steam romance something.
Yeah. I mean, not always. One of my friends, Eggy Bloom Thompson, she was like one of my original friends in my writing group.
Okay.
And she read this book called I Don't Forgive You. And it's set in like the DC suburbs where she lives. And so it's a thriller, but it doesn't really have like a super strong like romance. Like there's like sex involved because it's like in the mystery.
Okay.
But it is like so gripping. It was like one of the few books that it's one of the few books that's not a romance that I've stayed up all night reading.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to add it to my list.
Yeah. And she has another book coming out called All the Dirty Secrets. And I think it's like set during like beach week.
Oh.
For all of like the area schools. And so I think she's just like such a strong writer. Her voice is so just propulsive. Like and sometimes I read her books and I'm like, how can I bring this to my romance and make my books more propulsive? Cause it just like forces you to move forward. And so that's one of it's one of those things I love about a book.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I could nerd out about
I love it. I love it. I love it. So speaking of your books, like what do you find is the hardest or the easiest part about starting a book for you? Like, is it hard for you to come up with an idea? Do you have like a trope in mind that you want to use? Like, tell me about the conception of a new book idea.
It really depends. Like Not the Girl You Marry was the easiest book I ever like came up with a concept for because I was like, I want to retell How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days,
which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I didn't know that that's what that book was about. So as I mentioned, I'm a very new reader. So now I need to go back and read your back. Like, is that the one I go to next?
Oh yeah. That would, I would go back to that one. And then, I kind of had this like loose conception of not that kind of guy, which is the next book. I wanted to do something sort of like a cross between The Proposal and What Happens in Vegas.
Okay.
Because I love the trope of oops, we got married. And I was like, what would it be like to do? Because like the Vegas wedding usually happens at the beginning of a romance book. So if you think about like, so like Kylie Scott's first book in the Stage Dive series.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like that's a Vegas wedding.
Yeah.
But it's like the waking up the morning after. I was like, what if this happened between two people who knew each other?
Okay.
And so I kind of just came up and I was like, I want to write a billionaire hero, but I want him to be lovable.
Okay.
So I made him like working, like interning at the like DA's office.
Oh,
prosecuting sex crimes over the summer. And I love me some SVU. So I was like, what if I had like a DA, like an ADA as the heroine?
So good. I have to read all of these.
It's fun. And like, I love that book, especially because it does have like, it has like all this bananas, like it has all this bananas families drama. It has all of this, like the wake up married in Vegas.
Right.
It has positive abortion rep, which is
Love.
super, super important to me. And you know, like I have a special, and every time someone mentions like, oh, like I'm looking for a book that has like this, it's like Not That Kind of Guy has all of it. So it's kind of a kitchen sink book, but I think it works.
Love that.
And then for Hot Under His Collar, I was like, I wrote a priest into Not the Girl You Marry as the hero's best friend. And one of the first emails I got from people who had read Not the Girl You Marry was like, when is Father Patrick going to get a book? And I was like, I don't know if my big publishing house is going to let me write a priest romance. Like Sierra Simone is publishing her own book so she can write a priest romance. And so I'm friends with Sierra. And so I, you know, we discussed how I could approach it. And then I was like, well, it's going to have to be a slow burn because it's a big publisher book about a priest. And so then I sat down with Kate Claiborne and I was like, hey, Kate, you write slow burns. How do I do this?
Oh my God. You like really did a big market research on how to do this properly.
It wasn't such a bit like I'm terrible at research. Like I just want to fly into a book. So it was really just sitting at, I think we were were we at Grand Central? No, we were at Penn Station. We were sitting at Penn Station. And I'm like, how do I do this? And she's like, I think you can do this. And like, just like really amp up like the tension. And I was like, I think I can do the tension. And so Hot Under His Collar has like more like sensual tension between the two main characters and pining than any of my other books. And it's sort of like, I was very inspired by the second season of Fleabag.
I was literally going to say Fleabag.
Yes. If Fleabag messed you up, then Hot Under His Collar is pretty good.
That show, I was sobbing, and laughing. I can't. It was a masterpiece. I love that show.
I don't know if Hot Under His Collar is a masterpiece, but it is.
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure it does contain the filthiest scene I've ever written. So.
Oh my God. Okay. Speaking of filthy scenes, I need to tell you about my only Andie intro ever before reading this book.
Okay. Yes.
You're going to laugh. So I hope you laugh.
I love it. I'm going to love it.
I hope so. So I was talking with a different author and we were talking about different tropes because I do all these romance roundups on my page where I do different tropes and I do either typical tropes or I do different character tropes, whatever. Mm-hmm. So this author mentioned to me the Stern Brunch Daddy. And I was like, what's a Stern Brunch Daddy? And she's like, I'm not even going to explain it to you. Google it. And everything that popped up was you, obviously, because you're the freaking namer. I don't even know what to call you. The Stern Brunch Daddy. So I need you in your own words. I don't even want to explain this. I feel like I'm speaking to romance book trope royalty right now. So explain to everybody what a Stern Brunch Daddy is and how you came up with the term, because I've done now, I think 4 or 5 Stern Brunch Daddy roundups. And every time I do them, I insert the definition and I'm like, but you need to go look at Andie because Andie's the queen. And so many people write me being like, I never knew what this was called and now I can't stop laughing. This is the best thing ever. These are my favorite books.
It's like a very dominant hero or male main character who's also very caring and a caretaker. So it's sort of I also always describe it as the guy who's going to make sure your bottomless mimosa is truly bottomless and never empty, but he will also spank you until you cry. He is, it crosses gender because people will ask me if a certain female character is a Stern Brunch Daddy. And I'm like, almost always, definitely. Almost because
it's fluid as hell. So sorry to interrupt this very fun interview. I promise I'll be brief, but I just wanted to remind all of you that I have my very own 10% off code for Probably Smut, your absolute one-stop shop for the best bookish apparel. You can head over to www.probablysmut.com or check out their Instagram at probablysmut and use my code GETLIT10 for 10% off. Okay, back to the podcast. So how did you come up with the name Stern? Tell me the whole inception of Stern Brunch Daddy. Okay. The name, how people found out about it. Tell me the whole thing.
Okay. So the evidence, the original, this is it's going to be an audio, oral history because Sarah McLean and I both delete our tweets after 6 months. So automatically my tweets get deleted.
Actually?
Yeah, actually they delete after I have a
That's
service.
a setting?
Yeah. Well, you have to like, I pay for like an outside service that goes in and deletes my tweets after 6 months because like tweets are ephemeral and you don't like, I don't think the same things I did, 8 years ago when I started my Twitter account. So it's, and none of the same things are funny. The world has changed. So this is Sarah McLean, and I generally don't believe that the same men are visible. Like she doesn't see Chris Evans unless he's like fully Infinity War.
Okay. Marvel.
Yeah. Marvel. Like, so he's got to have like the long hair and the beard and like a fuck you walk. Okay. Sorry, I swore.
No, you could swear. We swear here. Yeah.
Okay. So he has a total fuck you walk. Anyway. Okay. So she sent a picture of Oscar Isaac, like sitting at a table, in like a restaurant, I would assume, because he's like holding a fork and he's all bearded and he looks like he hasn't cut his hair in weeks. And I was like, and she's like, Andie, he's visible to me now. And I was like, oh, I get what you're into. You can only see a man if he's a Stern Brunch Daddy. Because she's also like a very big fan of like Tom Hardy, and that Tom Hardy is like he's like bringing like home. There's all these pictures of him like bringing home bags of vegetables.
Yes,
always like holding a dog or stopping to say hi to a dog. Okay. But you know that he is completely an animal in the bedroom. You know this, man.
Yes.
So
that's how this.
That's how this started.
Stern Brunch Daddy. So then did you go on the record to talk about it? Like, were you tweeting about it? Like, how did it become a public thing?
It just started like a big thread that day that snowballed. And then I think I went on I went on the Wicked Wallflowers podcast. The episode is still up.
Okay.
With Sarah and Jenny. And we just basically broke down the Stern Brunch Daddy.
I'm dying.
Jenny Nordbach is a hero, she's an expert in the area because she's a retired dominatrix and wrote an entire memoir about it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I'm going to talk about this with anyone, if we're going to like come up with like a sort of taxonomy, like this, it's going to be with you.
So do you hear Stern Brunch Daddy every day? Like, do people constantly ask you about it, talk to you about it? Like, ask your opinion if this is a qualifying character to be a Stern Brunch Daddy? Like, does it follow you everywhere?
At least 4 times a week. And I love it. I am always willing to render a judgment. Like if someone thinks someone is a Stern Brunch Daddy, usually the answer is yes. Generally, if I say no, I'm like, he needs at least 15 years.
Oh my God. Okay. So now I need your expertise. What are some books that I should be reading that have like epic Stern Brunch Daddies in them?
Okay.
To put you on the spot. Sorry.
This is hard. I don't usually, I think, okay. So I'm going to say, if you're reading any of the oeuvre of Kate Canterbury.
Okay.
Her heroes are almost always Stern Brunch Daddies, especially the first 2 in the Walsh's series. Can't remember their names. Plus Will Halstead, who is a Navy SEAL Stern Brunch Daddy.
Okay.
I think I would say that Tessa Bailey heroes.
Yes.
Pretty much without exception are Stern Brunch Daddies. Because they like care so much, but they also just want to like tear it up. Like they're just there. And I mean, the dirty talk always on point. So I'm going to say, yes, definitely. I think the Earl in Adriana Herrera's latest, and see, I'm terrible with names.
Don't worry. It's all good.
Yeah. It's A Caribbean Heiress in Paris. That hero. He def counts. He's a whiskey distiller. So,
oh my God.
Okay, Scottish.
Oh my Lord. I just had to tell you though, like the Stern Brunch Daddy, like really has taken over my life. And every time I do a Stern Brunch Daddy roundup, without a fail, I get DMs of people being like, my boyfriend is next to me and he's like asking why I'm cackling. And I don't know how to explain this to him. But like, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's so good. Like, it's just the best name ever. And it's also like the best trope, but there was never a proper name for it until you. Like, you've saved everybody.
I mean, I'm always here for that. Like, if I have to leave, like none of my books leave a legacy, but this does. I will take it.
Well, first of all, your books will leave a legacy, but 1,000%, like this is something that you should be so proud of for forever, because you've changed romance books, I feel, and the way we read them and the way we classify them.
Well, I love it. I'm very happy to have done that.
Okay, well, now we could get into Thank You Next, because Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you about it. So we kind of touched upon this before, but this was purely a pandemic book. Like you start to finish, the whole thing was in the pandemic. Was that hard for you to do? Like you said, you had a bit more time because you weren't commuting to work anymore, but like, what was it like to write a book in COVID? Was it any different than writing books like pre-pandemic?
A little bit, I think, because I wanted to just jam pack as much joy into a book as possible.
Okay.
Because I think, I just like I wrote it in the first half of last year, so it was probably a more hopeful time.
Yeah.
But I wanted to write something that would just like make me happy while I was writing it, make readers happy while they were reading it. And I also wanted to show like close friendships on the page, and like just I wanted to have like a rich like sort of life for the heroine.
Yeah.
As well as sort of like a romp through the city of LA, because I just, I remember like in my 20s, like every, Saturday out was sort of like an adventure. It was like, who are we going to see out? Like,
and where are we going to go? Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we going to go? What kind of trouble are we going to get into?
Yeah.
Are we going to run into any of our exes?
Yeah.
So it was, and like, also I wanted to show like grownups having fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of where it came from. And then I had the story, waiting to be put in a book. So when like the beginning of the book, Alex comes home, she's watching Say Yes to the Dress. She sees her latest ex as the fiance on the show. And he said he would never get married. And she's like a little upset about it. A little more than a little upset.
Yeah. Well, a little more than salty. Yeah.
A little more than salty. And she had a meltdown. And so that actually happened to me a little bit.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
was it like Say Yes to the Dress? Like,
yes, Say Yes to the Dress. So it wasn't like my most recent ex. It was never like a serious relationship.
Okay.
But I was like, I just moved to DC. I had moved into an apartment sight unseen. There were like cockroaches. It was a nightmare.
Oh, okay.
The one pleasure I had was cable television.
Your one escape. And then
one escape.
And you turn it on and you see this guy that you had been hooking up with, dating, whatever, is now
in law school. Yeah. Like, and he, And the part that I also put in the book is that he did look like Michael B. Jordan, except taller.
I'm dying. That was the best analogy ever. I was like, oh my God, he must have been real freaking gorge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. Truly
makes the cut a little deeper.
Just the cut a little deeper. And so I had told the story to other romance author friends on and off throughout years and years. And they, they were like, when are you going to put that in a book? I was like, I'm not emotionally ready.
I don't blame you.
I'm not hungover. I'm not hung up on this man.
Yeah.
But emotionally,
you're not ready to tell it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair.
Absolutely can't. So I decided, it's a pandemic book. I'm trying to put as much joy as possible. It's like this story has given more people over a drinks and dinner joy.
Yeah.
Than I can count. So I'm gonna use it for a book. And then I also wanted to write a book like that's sort of like I don't know if like the portrayal of Lexi would like my grandmother would actually think it was an honor to be portrayed as Lexi, but like she's sort of
so freaking badass. Like I could not believe that she was a grandma. Like my grandma does not at all. Like never mind like her cool freaking lifestyle, but like the way she speaks and the way she treats Alex, like all of it is wild.
Yeah,
wildly different.
Wildly different.
Yeah.
I was like, because my grandma was a jazz singer and she did literally talk to me like I was an adult from the time I was like 4.
That's so cool.
She wasn't like as rich or famous as Lexi. And so I made like the grandmother in this book, like, I kind of like crossed her with like Eartha Kitt. So it's like because Eartha Kitt would tell stories about how she had like threesomes with like James Dean and Paul Newman.
I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah. So she was wild. And so I was like, I'll just add a little bit of Eartha Kitt to grandma. But yeah, I wanted to like write I love like a wild grandparent in a romance.
And she adds so much to the story. It's just like another fun element. Like it's such a unique, her voice is so unique and it's just a different added, like no romance books have their grandparents in their stories as such a big part of their story, you know, like it's an interesting addition. Right. It's different.
Yeah. And if a grandparent is in a story, usually it's like for a bummer reason, like they need to be taken care of or something.
Exactly. Or
they're going to die at the end. And I'm like, well, no, Lexi's not going to die at the end. Lexi's going to be fine. She's well preserved. She's like well pickled in vodka.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty close. Like I was close to both of my grandmothers. And like, you know, my mom's mom was the one who gave me like my first romance books. And so I wanted to just put as much like, you know, and she was like, she had like a dirty sense of humor until she was like very, very old. So I was like, I just kind of wanted to like put that into a book.
That's amazing. Like a little bit of her in it.
Yeah. And I also wanted Will to read a Stern Brunch Daddy.
Yeah.
And maybe like not quite as sure of himself as he could be and kind of like moving towards in that direction. But like, I was like, yeah, everybody loves a chef too. So
he's like I loved his character so much. And I just wish like at the end we got more. So can you tell me like, if you thought about it, like where would they be now? Like how would their story, are you going to write more? Like
you're going to see them in the next book.
Oh my God. I love, because it's like a same story world kind of thing, or it's a
same
sequel?
Story world. Okay. Definitely not a sequel. Okay. I wanted, I just was like writing this book. It was also set in Los Angeles. It's sort of like set in influencer world. There's also a publicist character.
Love.
Yeah. So the heroine in that book is a therapist who's written a dating advice book.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
Yeah. So it's super fun.
I love that.
Yeah. And there's a fake dating element. And then you
fave
see,
trope.
Yeah. And you see Will and Alex, as part of it. And it's, yeah. So
fun. What is that written? Completely done? Like, where are we at?
No, I'm still writing it. It doesn't come out until next September, but it is, I am very excited about it. I know it's called Unrealistic Expectations.
Love. Okay, wait, speaking of titles, the thank you next of it all.
Yes.
Like Ariana Grande obviously gave some sort of inspo to the title. Like, how did you come up with, like, is there a story behind it?
I did not come up with the title. My editor's lovely assistant, Mary, we were just going back and forth on titles. I was like, and none of them were right. And I can't even remember them now, because as soon as like Mary suggested thank you next, I was like, that's it. Perfect. It was a good title. So perfect. I love it. And it's literally not even my favorite Ariana Grande song. Like,
me neither, but yeah.
Positions is my favorite Ariana Grande song.
Positions is so fucking good.
It's so good. But that's a very different book.
A completely different book. But the title of this book is perfect. And I just love, like, obviously from this conversation, it's very clear, like, we're both on the same page as like pop culture things. And now that I know that your first book was a reverse of like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, right? That's what you said.
Yeah.
Did you have to pull any, I know you just said it's like based on a kind of a real circumstance, but I was reading this and I was like, this is like Good Luck Chuck.
I have never seen that movie.
Okay. You need to watch it. It's with Dane Cook. And I think the girl, I want to say it's Jessica Simpson, but like I may be wrong. It could be Jessica Alba because I haven't seen it in a while, but it's the same.
Jessica. Yeah.
It's one of the Jessicas, but it's the same kind of idea where it's like either he or she, I forgot which one it is. Like every person that they date, the next person ends up getting married. And it's like, they're just like the good luck charm because whoever they break up with then will get married to the next person they meet.
Yeah. I mean, I never like, I had never seen that movie, but you were not the first person who told me that like it reminded them of Good Luck Chuck. And then because Not the Girl You Marry sort of like hit the same story beats as How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yeah.
I kind of like wanted to like break the story and just do something, do my own thing. I didn't watch it while I was writing.
Yeah.
But maybe next week to like celebrate the release, I will do
you
a
could watch and then you could like
I'll live tweet it. Yeah.
Oh my God. That would be hilarious. Your commentary. That would be too good.
Yeah, I'm really too busy looking at Chris Evans.
I was laughing the other day. You tweeted, obviously, it was like a picture of him, but the commentary fucking killed me. But now I can't remember what it was. But it was like a pap pic.
It was, yeah, it was like he was it was like just as like
with his beard or something.
Yeah, What a Man by Salt and Pepper. Is it like playing in your head?
Yeah,
it's playing in my head. Yeah.
Yes.
No, he's really not letting us breathe this week. It's a lot.
It's hard. One other part of the book that I love that I don't want to forget to talk about is how like throughout the book she's obviously seeing all of her exes and she's having these like hilarious encounters. Mm-hmm. Were there any like crazy ones that didn't make the final cut of the book, like, or ideas you had that you were like, I can't put this into the book, but like, how freaking funny would it be?
I'm trying to think because I probably did, but all
of them? Okay,
yeah. I mean, I think I did most of them because, like, I don't know, like whenever you ask, like whenever I've run into an ex and we've gotten in, you know, like probably, you know, alcohol assisted conversation about like why things didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like it's always a bummer. And so I wanted Alex to just realize that she had exercised very poor taste in her entire life because she was really all the way still in love with Will.
Right. I love that. I love that. And it was so apparent.
Yeah. I mean, she pretended that, like, I think they were both just like pretending they didn't like each other at the beginning of the book. And I was like, that's to me, I love it when there's like that hate with like a little bit of love.
Yeah. The tension, that and the love, like that squeaks in. What was your favorite scene to write?
I think their first kiss because, and the lead up to the first kiss, because again, we're going back to Chris Evans. Always comes back to Chris Evans. But I don't know if you've ever seen this video of him like in a parking garage, like getting this girl's number, and he's like very, very smooth about it.
Like a random girl?
Like a random girl. It's like I think it's like the parking garage under a club in LA.
No, I have to go watch this immediately.
It's like 2006. And so I was like, what if that girl was Alex? And so I was like, I'm going to put an actor in this book and then I go to a party at his house. Cause I feel like anytime, like one of the things I was watching and I watched like back when it came out, when I was writing this book was Entourage, which is great show. Problematic, but so funny.
It's such a good, it obviously is so problematic, but it's so funny.
It's so funny. And like, I often wonder, like, and I was thinking of like Alex's group of friends as sort of like her entourage.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah. Jane,
Who's turtle?
Like who's turtle? Like she doesn't really have a turtle.
I was going to say, I don't feel like she does.
I mean, she definitely has an Ari. That's Jane.
Yeah.
And I was like, so like Jane is just like Ari, but so a Black woman.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And so I was like, they gotta go. You know, they're both like, they're all Hollywood adjacent. They're going to go to a party at an actress house. Like, what if she dated the actor? And what if it was like a stand-in for Chris Evans?
So funny.
And I was
so
like,
funny.
And then I was like, that's how I'm going to get Will to kiss her. Cause he's going to be like,
it's such a good scene.
Yeah. That was my favorite one to write because I was like, oh, this is going to get all of my like Chris Evans fandom girlies like really excited.
I'm sure it did. I can't wait for everybody to read this book because I know everyone's just gonna like die. There's so many like good tropes and there's so many good moments in it. And like, I'm just obsessed with Alex and Will. Like I ship them to the end of time.
I love them. I mean, they're just like, and I always write, like, I always kind of like my heroes sort of like are shaped by who the heroine is. Like I always have a really good idea of who the heroine is.
Okay.
And
that's so interesting.
Yeah. I think it's the opposite of how most romance writers do it. For me, I was like, I want like my books to be like, if someone like wants to self-insert into my books, I want them to like self-insert into like being the heroine who is like, I'm not going to take like an ounce of bullshit from anybody. And just, you know, I really just want my readers to like see themselves. Cause I just like romance readers are so badass. I want my romance readers to feel like they can see themselves in my heroines.
And I think you did a really good job with that, especially in this one. I can't wait to go through your backlist. I'm so freaking excited. I'm going to DM you like scream crying. I'm sure.
I love it.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I feel like I've taken too much of your time now, but this was so much fun. You answered all of my questions. I'm so happy we got to talk about the Stern Brunch Daddy of it all because
yes, anytime.
So good. So good. Okay. Well, when the next book comes out, you'll have to come back so we could do a deep dive.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see more about Alex and Mel. Like, where are they going to be? Like now I know at least I'm getting a little more. That's such a treat.
It's just a little bit more, but it
doesn't matter. I'll take what I could get. Yeah,
right.
Of course. I'm not greedy. It's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. You too.